What forces can bring down one of the world's most symmetrical volcanoes? What happens when the very lava that built Mayon's famous peak begins to undermine its flanks? Scientists are on edge as a recent surge of magma at Mount Mayon has literally sent parts of its flank collapsing. This story is like a geological thriller. Amid a steamy plume of sulfur gases and glowing lava, Mayon's towering walls suddenly caved in, sending a river of pyroclastic material roaring downslope. How did this happen, and does it spell an even greater threat ahead? Mount Mayon in Albay province on the Philippine island of Luzon is celebrated for its near-perfect cone shape. Rising about 2,462 metres, that is roughly 8,075 feet, above sea level, it stands with steep, unweathered slopes and a small summit crater. Its formation began in the late Pleistocene or early Holocene, perhaps some 22,000 years ago by recent estimates, as part of the volcanic arc created by the subduction of the Philippine sea plate beneath the Philippine Mobile Belt. Layers of rock tell the story. Mayon's broad edifice is built on lava flows, pyroclastic deposits, airfall ash, and debris flows stacked in ever steeper slopes. Stratified cones and cinder cones dot its flanks, evidence of cycles of building and collapse over its history. Inside, Mayon's magmas are typically basaltic andesite, moderately low in silica, producing flows that, while fluid enough to travel far, are also crystal-rich and hot. The system is an open-vent volcano. The conduit often remains open to the surface, allowing continuous degassing, at times thousands of tons of sulfur dioxide per day. This means magma and gas can escape slowly, even between explosive events. Since the first recorded eruption in 1616, Mayon has erupted dozens of times, usually mildly explosive, Strombolian or Vulcanian style, and punctuated by occasional larger Plinian blasts. Eruptions cycle roughly every decade, often starting with faster-moving basaltic lava flows, then transitioning to thicker andesitic flows. Beneath the surface, researchers infer a multi-level plumbing system. Deep zones of magma feed shallower reservoirs. Pressure, temperature and crystal fractionation occur over timescales of years to decades. Over the past century, geologists have observed that each new eruption often reactivates existing magma and builds on previously emplaced magma from earlier events, suggesting a mostly steady-state behaviour. In effect, Mayon's heart has been simmering almost continuously, primed to burst forth again and again. Yet, for all its explosive potential, Mayon's outward appearance usually conceals the rumblings inside. Its steep, polished slopes, carved by erosion and reinforced by hard lava flows, are a facade of stability. The upper flanks can sustain slopes up to 100%, a 45-degree angle, precisely because layers of lava flow act like armour on the cone. A geomorphologist who mapped the volcano described the classic Mayon profile as a concave curve driven by ash accumulating up to its angle of repose, but balanced by repeated lava eruptions building over it. In other words, whenever the cone grows too steep, gravity sends loose material sliding down, while strong lava layers buttress the new slopes, maintaining that iconic silhouette. In late 2025 and early 2026, seismic and gas monitoring networks showed that Mayon's magma chamber was reawakening. Scientists detected an inflation of the volcano's flanks, meaning the ground was doming upward as magma pushed in. Sulfur dioxide emissions climbed into the hundreds of tons per day. By January 2026, PHI-Volcs, the Philippine Volcanology Agency, raised the alert level to 3 out of 5, as observers reported growing lava domes. Almost daily, incandescent rockfalls and pyroclastic density currents, local slang uson, streamed from Mayon's summit. These flows are the loose hot avalanches of ash and gas that often accompany collapse of a lava dome. Videographers caught scenes of fiery avalanches down the Miisi, Bonga and Basud gullies, channels etched into the volcano by erosion. As one recent bulletin noted, Mayon was exhibiting signs of increasing unrest with bright lava and collapsing domes, sending hot debris downslope. In fact, in mid-January alone, there were over 1,000 rockfall and pyroclastic events recorded in a day, concentrated along those same gullies. This intense activity meant lava was actually flowing out of the summit as well. A fresh lava flow had begun descending the lower slopes by early January. Lava that oozed out built short glowing streams, first cooling as rock but also seeping into cracks deeper down, gradually filling any channels. Such flows are typically slow, a few meters per hour, but they feed the volcano's flank stability. Over weeks, the molten streams built and thermally altered the surface layers of the existing cone. While this unrest was unfolding, the volcano's main danger zones remained off-limits. Communities within a 6-kilometre, about 4-mile, radius of the summit, roughly the outer edge of those steep slopes, were already evacuated due to the threat of pyroclastic flows, lava and landslides. But geologists always worry about surprises in such dynamic systems. One long-standing principle of volcanic hazards is that dramatic slope failures can occur suddenly, especially when fresh magma deforms the flanks from below. On the afternoon of May 2, 2026, scientists monitoring Mount Mayon noticed something alarming. The southwestern flank of the volcano gave way. In other words, a section of slope collapsed. Officials reported that a lava flow-led pyroclastic density current swept down the southwest side. This phrase means that the collapse was tied to lava actively flowing there. Essentially, a front of hot lava and rock hit a weak spot, caved in, and sent a glowing flow of debris downhill. Video from the volcano's monitoring cameras, and later published on social media, shows molten rivers advancing in the afternoon sun, then a sudden cloud of ash and glowing fragments rushing down a gully. According to Fivolks, it was a 7-second dash. A flow of molten rock collapsed at about 5:38 p.m., triggering an explosive plume and avalanche. In practical terms, scientists likened it to the lava pushing outwards until the bank broke, cascading as pyroclastic material. No one was hurt, but the event sent shockwaves through the volcanology community. How exactly did it happen? The immediate culprit was this new lava effusion on the Mi-Isi drainage, or nearby Mi-Isi channel, one of the steep gullies on the volcano's south-southwest flank. Heat and mass from the advancing lava likely built a pressure of sorts behind existing rock. Lava is heavy. A cubic metre weighs about 3,000 kilograms, and as flows thickened, their weight strained the walls of the channel. Moreover, the lava's heat softened or thermally altered the underlying rock and talus, undermining the cohesion of the slope. Imagine pouring honey down a mountain. The weight of the honey adds pressure at the base, and if it squeezes out supporting material, the upper slope can slump or slide off. Another factor was internal gas pressure. As lava flows down a channel, gases exsolve and build up in the molten material. If that pressurized front stalls or encounters resistance, it can act like a pistoning plug. In Mayon's case, scientists described the collapse as lava flow-led, implying the fresh lava expanded the volume too quickly for the crater drainage system to handle. When the pressure peaked, the front buckled. The result, thousands of cubic meters of glowing rock came off at once, turning into a pyroclastic density current. These flows are avalanches of hot gas and volcanic rock that rush at tens to over 100 kilometers per hour, tens of miles per hour, hugging the ground. The steepness of Mayon's slopes made them especially vulnerable. The upper slopes above about 1,200 meters, that is roughly 3,937 feet, elevation average a 67% grade. That is an angle approaching 50 degrees, practically sheer cliffs by everyday standards. Normally this is stable because the layers are welded by past lava flows. But during intense lava effusion, a new layer can sit like a bloated blister atop the old. The moment that blister ruptures or detaches, gravity does the rest. In this case, a portion of the newly active flow ripped away and rushed downward, feeding the pyroclastic density current. Significantly, eyewitness reports said the pyroclastic flow raced along the very same drainage that was hosting the lava. These channels are like funnels on Mayon's flanks. Anything detached at the top slides straight down them. The May 2 event was thus lava flow-led, meaning the failing lava front generated the pyroclastic current. We can think of it as a block and ash flow, a type of pyroclastic flow formed when pieces of a lava dome or flow break off under their own weight. In short, magma push became lava shove. Scientists likened it to a flash avalanche. Mayon's magma carved out a new outlet, quickly pouring out as lava. But then the slope above that outlet gave in. The sudden collapse not only steered molten rock into the gully, it also blasted ash and rock fragments up into the air, forming a dark plume. That plume then collapsed under its own weight, adding to the pyroclastic flow in the gully. Observers in Legazpi, about 6 kilometres or about 4 miles south of Mayon, saw a brownish ash cloud towering above the summit after the collapse. This collapse was not a random freak event. It ties into how an open-vent volcano like Mayon behaves. Over recent months, seismometers had been buzzing with hundreds of rockfall quakes every day. This metric record tells us the summit was producing many small avalanches even before May. Those quakes, coupled with rising sulfur dioxide gas emissions, signalled increased lava dome activity and effusion. In other words, magma was welling up and starting to squeeze out. The Global Volcanism Programme's update for early February noted that these rockfalls and pyroclastic density currents were likely triggered by increased effusion of lava directed towards the MI-ISI lava flow. In plain terms, Mayon's magma flow had been reoriented and was pouring lava down that southwestern drainage. And that is exactly where the May 2 collapse occurred. The pyroclastic density currents observed earlier were generated by collapsing lava at the summit, and on May 2 the same mechanism manifested as a sudden landslide. In week-by-week detail, volcanologists saw lava flows advance hundreds to thousands of meters down the cone in late January and February. This was a prelude to the collapse. Geologic memory also reminds us of Mayon's past. In 1993, for example, scientists noted the Mayon crater briefly bulged into a dome before spewing lava. Observers even reported a bulging of the normally concave crater floor into a convex dome before a fatal explosion. 2 months of effusive activity later in February and March 1993 saw dozens of collapse-type pyroclastic flows, described as portions of the lava flow front detaching and rolling down the steep upper slopes. In other words, what happened in 2026 had clear analogues in earlier years, gradual lava extrusion followed by many small collapses. Each time, the mechanism was the same. Magma pushes out, a lava shell grows, the shell's edge breaks off into pyroclastic flow. Mayon's record is full of these flank-release events whenever effusion intensifies. To fully grasp why this collapse drew concern, one must appreciate Mayon's structure. Its summit area is lined with several broad erosional gullies, Mi-Isi, Bonga, Basud, among others, roughly radiating down from the peak. These gullies are the scars of repeated lahars, rain-triggered mud flows, and pyroclastic surges over centuries. They provide the lowest resistance paths for materials to travel downward. When Mayon erupts or extrudes lava, the output often follows these natural funnels. Geomorphologists have quantified Mayon slopes. From the summit crater down to about 1,200 meters altitude, that is roughly 3,937 feet, is the upper volcanic slope, averaging 75% steepness. Lava flows here, still molten from eruptions, serve as armor plating. They create a surface strong enough to hold nearly vertical faces. About midway down is the middle volcanic slope, a bit gentler, around 43% average, down to roughly 500 meters altitude, about 1,640 feet. Below that, the cone flares into broad, gentler foot slopes. This matters because it shows the volcano as multi-tiered. The upper tiers are brittle and steep, capable of sudden high-energy collapses. The lower slopes, by contrast, only gradually funnel materials and allow waves to lose energy. In the May 2 collapse, it was the upper steep slope that failed, causing a swift, energetic pyroclastic surge. Such steep walls normally carry enormous loads of rock, which can fail catastrophically if overloaded or weakened. Lava addition is one way to overload them. Another framing of lava pressure speaks to internal magmatic forces. As magma accumulates beneath the summit, it pressurizes the rock and gas in the conduit. If magma moves laterally or vertically, it can fracture pathways. In the case of a vent open to the sky, like Mayon's crater, rising magma tends to move up until it can escape. But if that vent is partially blocked by a dome, pressure can build until the dome or flank ruptures. At Mayon, continuous degassing kept typical pressure relatively low. But during the recent uptick, something changed. Magma that had been nearly stagnant started surging upward. FIVO-LCS measurements showed sulfur dioxide flux jumping from hundreds to several thousands of tons per day by early February. This indicates fresh, volatile, rich magma entering shallow levels. Also, seismic records may have shown long-period tremors, though not directly cited here, that often presage dome growth. The bottom line is that magma pressure was higher than usual. This higher pressure injected lava out of the crater floor and into the cone's downslope. When that pressurized system encountered a breach on the flank, like an erupting lava flow, it essentially blasted it. Imagine a thick lava flow acting like a dam. Magma behind it was under pressure and needed release. Once the flow edge shattered, the confined gas and magma exploded outward, pushing debris down gully channels. This is why the event is described as collapse-fed. A collapse at the lava front was fed by the pressurized lava behind it. The collapse material did not simply avalanche quietly, it expanded into a pyroclastic current. Technically, this occurs because as the lava chunks shattered, they heated and expanded the gas. Fine ash became entrained, and the mixture flowed outward at high speed. Mayon's pyroclastic currents are dense, ground-hugging flows, much like flour powder being expelled from an oven. They carried enough energy to travel perhaps 1 to 2 kilometers. That is about 0.6 to 1.2 miles down the slopes. For scale, that is like moving down the height of the Empire State Building. Because they occurred on steep terrain, friction was overcome and momentum was high. Such pyro flows are extremely hot, maybe several hundred degrees Celsius. They erode loose material in the gully, picking up extra ash and rocks as they surge. When these flows hit gentler slopes lower down, they decelerate and spread out, often leaving a thick grey deposit. After the May 2 collapse, some areas in Albay province reported a light dusting of grey ash over village roads. This is consistent with small to moderate volume pyro flows raining out ash. It is important to clarify what did not happen. The collapse on May 2 was not a massive sector collapse of the cone, like the ancient flank failures that built Crater Lake or Hawaiian landslides. It was localized. A portion of active lava flow gave way. Nonetheless, even small collapses can have outsized effects if they occur near populated areas. Fortunately, Mayon's permanent danger zone kept people out of immediate harm. What concerns scientists is not just the single event, but what it signals about Mount Mayon's state. Lava-driven flank collapses usually mean the system is highly pressurized. In 1993, for example, multiple collapse flows preceded a short-lived lava fountain phase. If magma supply remains high, Mayon could again intensify to more vigorous eruptive styles, perhaps a lava fountain or explosive eruption. Alternately, the volcano might simply produce more slow lava flows and small collapses until the magma supply wanes. In either case, the flanks will remain unstable as long as that lava continues to flow into them. For science enthusiasts watching this unfold, the lesson is twofold. First, it is a vivid showcase of volcanic processes, the interplay of lava effusion, slope stability, and pyroclastic flows. Second, it is a testament to our growing understanding. Thanks to years of study, we can explain these events in detail. Questions like, can lava pressure collapse? A volcano now have nuanced answers. Yes, under the right conditions, gravity and pressure can combine to bring down parts of a mountain. Mayon slopes are not mythical, invulnerable walls. They are the ever-shifting frontier where Earth's fiery underworld meets the sky. Scientists will continue deciphering Mayon's signals. Each future tremor, gas puff, or fresh lava lobe will be a clue. Meanwhile, the world watches the perfect cone. Will its slopes remain stable after this shock? Or will the magma that built them carve a new path, sending down more avalanches? Time and tectonic forces will tell, but for now, Mount Mayon reminds us that even in apparent calm, the Earth is alive, and its secrets are not revealed until pressure forces them out.